That doesn't. Anyway, it's it wouldn't be Ramadan if we didn't have a fight about the beginning of and the ending of the month. It's kind of like the Ramadan Olympics.
Yep.
Without fail.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam.
I have a quick question regarding Hajj. Because I know with Ramadan, regarding Ramadan, there's always the battle of when it starts, when it ends, when it's Eid, when it's not Eid. But when it comes to Hajj, it seems like there's not an issue as to when it starts and when it ends, or is there?
So this all devolves.
I mean, I haven't been, so I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, this whole thing devolves down into the two major camps. Can you predict the sighting and position of the moon or not? Obviously, one camp says yes, the other camp says no. And that applies to all 12 months, not just the month of Ramadan.
Right.
And this is where it shows that our community is grossly inconsistent in that the other 11 months of the year, nobody seems to care when the month begins or ends. Matter of fact, they probably don't even know what month they're in on the Islamic calendar. Like if you ask somebody to name all 12 months of the Islamic calendar, they probably could not do so. And yet, matter of fact, people often have misgivings about the day of Arafah being different days for the Hujjaj, for the people on Hajj, than for the people who are Ghayru Hujjaj, for the people who are not on Hajj, even though I don't see why this is an issue. Matter of fact, if you wanted to take the moon sighting opinion, that the moon has to be sighted, right? Not calculated, but sighted. Now, you could say perhaps with aid like binoculars or a telescope or a telephoto lens or whatever, but it has to be sighted. Then inevitably different locations have the possibility of beginning and ending on different days, including the day of Arafah. And there is absolutely nothing in the Qur'an that substantiates or demands that Arafah has to be on the same day globally, right? So unfortunately, we've become a very confused community, and we don't know what we want to do. We don't know whether we're a scientific community and we're going to do everything by science. And of course, there are some problems with that. And we don't know if we're going to be a moon sighting community. So unfortunately, I think just until the end of time, we will be a community that will have these differences and these confusions, quite honestly. I usually say to the average person, find somebody that is reputable to be knowledgeable and generally tends to go with other reputable people. And if they form enough of a conglomerate, then go with the jama'ah, as we say. And if there is other groups or other jama'ah that have then, that it is what it is. And don't burden yourself with these things.
MashaAllah. Alhamdulillah.
That's my 2 cents.
Thank you.
All right, so inshallah we'll begin. Bismillah. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه وصلواته وسلامه على النبي الكريم وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. Alhamdulillah, we are now at the second to last juz'ah of the Qur'an, and we're gonna take a look, inshallah, tonight at the 29th juz'ah, starting with Surah al-Mulk, which is the 67th chapter of the Qur'an. And this is an extraordinarily beautiful chapter of the Qur'an. And in fact, this particular chapter of the Qur'an, it is recorded both in At-Tirmidhi and Abu Dawood, and it's found actually also collected in Riyadh al-Salihin. So if you happen to have a copy of Riyadh al-Salihin, you will find it in there, in which Abu Hurairah reports that the Prophet ﷺ said that there is a surah in the Qur'an that contains 30 verses or 30 verses of that surah that, and we'll discuss how maybe this comes about, that will intercede for a person until they are forgiven, right? And he explained that this surah is indeed تبارك الذي بيده الملك, يعني it's Surah al-Mulk. So he said that من القرآن سورة 30 آية شفعت لرجل حتى غفرت له وهي تبارك الذي بيده الملك. So this hadith is saying that, and it confirms other ahadith, right? And what we generally understand is that the Qur'an will be one of those things that will intercede for us on our behalf. And in fact, in another hadith, it said that when we are in the grave, one of the experiences that we will have in the grave, in the barzakh, right, in that place that is in between this world, the dunya, and the next life, the akhirah, the barzakh, as we call it, a white being will come to us, meaning like kind of shining, glowing. I don't mean like from Sweden, but like a glowing being will come to us, and we will ask, who is this? And it will say, I am the Qur'an you recited in this life. I am the Qur'an. So the Qur'an is attested in many different ways through different narrations as that shafa'ah, right? As that intercession for us, which is, why during the month of Ramadan, it becomes a tradition amongst us to read the book. And one of the most tragic parts about the other 11 months of the year is it's not read. And if you understand that the book and your relationship with it, which is manifested through reading it, right? The reading of the Qur'an is how you gain this shafa'ah, this intercession, right? That the other 11 months it needs to be read. Alhamdulillah, if we rejuvenate that habit in this month, but we really must strive not to let it go. And this is the title, al-Mulk, is related to Malik, right? Which means to be the owner of something. Sometimes we translate it as a king, but malaka, the verb, means to possess. So when Allah says, تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ, right? Blessed is the one, is he, بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ, that he possesses all of creation by his hand, وَهُوَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ, and he has power or qadr or measurement, however we want to understand it, over everything. And it is amazing that Allah refers to himself as Mubarak, that he refers to himself as blessed. تَبَارَكَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ الْمُلْكِ, right? And Allah, by describing himself as having tabaruk in the past tense, yani tabaraka, means it is kamilan, it is complete, it is complete. It is not mudari', it is not in some process of being blessed, but it is complete. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةِ. And look at the 10 kisat here, right? Look at the ordering of the words. Allah says, before life, he created death. Before life, he created death. الَّذِي خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ. He created them both, but death has been created before life. خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ لِيَبَلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. What is the entire purpose of life? The entire purpose of living and the entire purpose of dying, right? Your life and your death are a test. Not just your life. Because he says, خَلَقَ الْمَوْتَ وَالْحَيَاةَ. which means that we need to focus and pay attention. I've been talking about this a lot for the last day or so, focus and attention. We need to focus on how we live, but we also need to focus on how we die. That means we should not have a fear of death in, not that we, obviously we just don't want to throw ourselves off of a cliff, right? But we accept that this thing called life comes to an end, but our existence does not come to an end. And therefore, life and death are both tests. Knowing that we will die is a test. And then we will have to pass the test of death itself. When we are in the grave, the angel will come to us. Man rabbuk wa ma huwa kana dinuk, right? Who is your Lord? Wa ma kana ladayka nabiyak, who was your prophet? What was your deen? What was your religion? And who is your Lord? Who did you worship? We will be in a state of death when this comes to us. We will be dead in the grave when we are asked these questions. But we will not be inanimate in some way. So understanding that life and death are a test. We are being tested right now. We are living, we are alive. This very moment is part of our test, right? So everything, if you think about it, whether alive or dead, whether living or dead, organic, inorganic, however you want to think, everything, what? لِيَبْلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Everything is to test us in our deeds. Here, deeds encompasses your fikra, like your beliefs, your iman, and of course your a'mal, right? Your deeds, right? وَهُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ. And Allah is powerful, but also forgiving. Allah is Al-Aziz. He is almighty, but He is also Al-Ghafur. He is forgiving. And then, very beautiful, He goes into this passage about creation. الذي خلق سبع سماوات طباقا وترى في الخلق الرحمن من تفاوت. He is the one that has created as-samawat, the seven heavens, in levels or stages, right? سبع سماوات طباقا ما ترى في خلق الرحمن. When you gaze at the creation of the most merciful, which means the act of creation is imbued with Allah's attribute of Ar-Rahman. The act of Allah creating life and death, everything is imbued with Allah's. He doesn't talk about fi khalq Allah, he says what? Fi khalq ar-Rahman, in the creation of the most merciful. Right? And do you find any flaw in the creation of the most merciful? It's a rhetorical question. No. And even though you don't see any flaw in the creation of the most merciful, he says, فَرَجِعْ الْبَصَرْ هَلْ تَرَى مِنْ فُطُورٍ. Look again. Do you see any gaps in it? Any, fitr? Do you see any gaps in it? ثُمَّ رَجَ الْبَصَرَ كَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبُ إِلَيْكِ الْبَصَرُ خَاشِعًا وَهُوَ حَصِيرٌ. This is unbelievable, right? Look again and again. ثُمَّ رَجِعَ الْبَصَرَ. Look again at it. And he said, what? قَرَّتَيْنِ يَنْقَلِبُ إِلَيْكَ الْبَصَرُ. Your sight will be dazzled at it. And if you think about it, from earliest man into right now, to this very moment, there is nothing that captivates. It's very hard for me to read Qur'an. It's very emotional. When you look at the night sky, it is unbelievable. It is truthfully an unbelievable phenomenon that has enchanted man from ancient times until now. There is nothing as enchanting as the night sky. And Allah invites us to look again and again and again at it and to marvel at His work. Like an artist that has put his work on display and wants people to look and marvel at what he's done. He wants them to recognize and look at this and see meaning. It says, وَلَقَدْ زَيَّنَّا السَّمَاءَ الدُّنْيَا. And a lot of what we're marveled at is just the lower heaven, not even the higher heavens. So this chapter is very emotional in its language, is very awe-inspiring in its language. And if you have a chance, even if it's now, even we have so much light pollution, unfortunately, step outside and look, even if you only see a few stars, and feel that connection and know that it was created by Allah's attribute of not only Khaliq. We would think, okay, it's been created by the Creator, but Allah says what? Khalq ar-Rahman, the creation of the most merciful. Even though He is the Creator, it is a creation of the most merciful. And therefore, life and death will also then have its aspects of mercy. If we live our life well, despite it being لِيَبَلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا, despite life having its challenges and tests, it also has so much mercy. And our death, if we live it well, if we do our life well, we will have a good death. And our time in the grave will be one of comfort as a preview and as a foreshadowing of what our life will be in the garden. And that also, inshallah, will be merciful. But understand that even though Allah is merciful, His mercy does not contradict His capacity to repay people for what they did, to also punish. And Allah talks about this as well. And this shows the balance, right? That the Qur'an talks about all of these beautiful things, but it is also, it's what? Bashirun wa nadhirun, right? It is also a warning, right? And Allah says about those people that will be thrown into the fire, قَالُوا بَلَا قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ, right? The angels who are the guardians of the fire, the custodians of the fire, when they throw people into the fire, they will say, didn't بَلَا قَدْ جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ, didn't any warner come to you? And they would say, yes, بَلَا جَاءَنَا نَذِيرٌ, a warner did come to us. فَكَذَّبْنَا وَقُلْنَا مَا نَزَّلَ اللَّهُ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. We did, but we denied Allah and said, Allah has sent nothing down to us. And we said that what? And they will say, you are إِلَّا فِي ضَلَالٍ كَبِيرٍ, that you are misguided. So understand that the Qur'an provides a balance. And I've had several people talk to me over the last few weeks that perhaps engaged the Qur'an for really the first time. They're like, wow, there's a lot of talking here about hellfire. That seems really heavy. It is heavy. That's because لِيَبَلُوَكُمْ أَيُّكُمْ أَحْسَنُ عَمَلًا. Everything counts. Everything is a test. And you will be graded. We have to understand that whether we like it or not, we will be held to account by a standard, not of our choosing. And we have no choice but to try our best to live up to the standard. And Allah, as He says, هُوَ الْعَزِيزُ الْغَفُورُ, He is powerful, but He is also forgiving. Right? So we can find plenty of hope, even though we will find actions there. And those are meant, as many of the ulama have said, the ayat about Jahannam and adhab, this is wa'idh. It is the hope that you will be so scared and so put off that you just forget about it. I will comply, right? And this is why Allah says, إِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ كَبِيرٌ. Allah says the ones who will be successful are those who what? يَخْشَوْنَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَيْبِ. They fear Him in how He is not seen and not apparent directly, but indirectly. They look at the sky, they look at the stars, and they see all of this and they connect the dots and they see that there is a merciful Creator. They have hope in Him. They ask for His forgiveness. They do their best. And through that, Allah, لَهُمْ مَغْفِرَةٌ وَأَجْرٌ, right, kabir. They will have forgiveness and a great reward. So then moving on from this when we look also on the topic of salvation, right? Our salvation in the next life. In Surah Al-Haqqa, Allah talks about people that they will be what? خُذُوهُ فَغُلُّوهُ ثُمَّ الْجَحِيمَ صَلُّوهُ. Some people, they will literally be seized, and they will be, as we would say, they will be trussed up like a chicken getting ready to be thrown into a rotisserie. ثُمَّ الْجَحِيمَ صَلُّوهُ, right? They'll be thrown into a fire, and they will be roasted just like a chicken, right? And he will say, ثُمَّ فِي سِلْسِلَةٍ ذَرْعُهَا سَبَعُونَ ذِرَاعًا. They will be in chains, 70 units long, all chained up. Why? Why would this happen to a person, or how? إِنَّهُ كَانَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ الْعَظِيمِ. They did not believe in Allah, al-Azim. Not just in God, but Allah, al-Azim. So here it's important that Allah attaches another attribute to His name. Because Allah is specific. He is al-Ahad, right? He doesn't want to be worshipped according to people's standards. He wants to be worshipped according to His standard. So Allah says, إِنَّهُ كَانَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ الْعَظِيمِ. Right? They didn't worship Allah according to His standard, which is what He is defining as al-Azim. But then look at how He connects it to something very mundane. وَلَا يُحَدُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. His salvation in the fire is at jeopardy by not believing on Allah specifically as He's commanded to believe in Him, and by not feeding the poor. And in fact, not even just feeding the poor, encouraging the poor to be fed, because not everybody may have the capacity to feed the poor. You may be so poor yourself that you can't even feed yourself, therefore you may not even have the capacity to feed any other person. But you can encourage that the poor are fed. Everybody has the capacity, and if this giant rock gets, if many hands come together, this big boulder can actually be rolled up a hill. We can, I always think about it living here in the Los Angeles area, Hollywood. I did some math the other day, like just the 3 or 4 Avengers movies that came out. I mean, they had like billions of dollars in revenue. Unbelievable, right? Billions of dollars in revenue. And we have Skid Row. This should not be possible, that making movies about people wearing spandex, and I enjoy those movies as much as anybody, but a town that can produce a movie that can make billions, like that's so much money we can't understand, and yet people are living on the street, sleeping in their own defecation, in their own feces, in their own urine, starving, right? This is unimaginable. And because of this kind of dhulm, I can understand why Allah was the person that can make $2 or $3 billion and not look at that in his immediate grasp, in his immediate zone. He cannot be a person, يُؤْمِنُونَ بِاللَّهِ الْعَظِيمِ. You don't believe in Allah al-Azim. You might believe in some abstract concept of God, which is probably your own nafs, but you don't believe in Allah al-Azim. And that's why وَلَا يُحَدُّ عَلَى طَعَامِ الْمِسْكِينِ. You're not even thinking about encouraging, let alone you have the capacity to wipe it out altogether. So I think, certainly one of the things that we can improve on as a community is to just keep clamoring, making some noise. We make noise about a lot of things. It's funny, today Trump went on TV and talked about, we're going to open up now. And he mentioned mosques and imams, or apparently. Now, a few weeks ago, he mentioned churches and synagogues, but didn't mention mosques, and Muslim social media went bonkers. He didn't mention Muslims, Trump is an Islamophobe, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm no fan of Trump. The man is a clown. But then when he does, Trump mentioned mosques today, and he mentioned Muslims. This is insanity, right? This really shows our value does not come from Allah, and it doesn't come from Islam, and it doesn't come from this book. It comes from other things. This is almost a kind of form of minor shirk, right? We make all kinds of noise about that, but we don't make any noise about people not getting fed. And it is our salvation. You know, again, it's almost worthy of crying about. You know, when I read this, that we have to make noise about the right kinds of things, not about being liked and not being accepted, right? If we make enough noise about the right things, Allah will love us, and that's all the love anybody will ever need in this life. So before I turn this into Niagara Falls and just kind of turn into a giant 300-pound ball of tears, I'm going to go ahead and open the last few minutes. Do you have any questions? Inshallah, take some time to read through. This is a beautiful couple of chapters full of incredible advice and guidance from Allah. Inshallah, that can benefit us, inshallah, in this life and in the next. I don't know what happened to my unmute, but.
Now, so he's going to have the highest station in the garden, right? So
what's
for
that?
him, right? I'm not going to say it wasn't a big deal.
Oh.
His position.
There's like another khutbah going on in the background?
But it's you and I who are wrestling between gardens.
Okay.
It's like something else going on.
That's the backup, right? In case, you know, I just become incapacitated from crying about the Qur'an, Ishaq is there to just fill in as the emergency broadcast system. Any questions? I know I ran a little bit long. We only got about 8 minutes left. So yeah, we'll be on tomorrow, finish up the 30th, and then inshallah 9 o'clock we will have our Eid khutbah. So remember, try to pray your Salat al-Eid in the morning before 9 o'clock, so that, because traditionally you pray first and then you do khutbah, and then we'll do a little hangout inshallah afterwards.
No problem. For the dhikr, whatever it was, right? From the time
it's still going. So if you want, you are welcome to tune in on the Ishaq Nash Bey channel, channel B, backup channel.
I have a question. You mentioned that, you know, when after we die and before we are ascended to heaven or sent to hell, we are in a place, and that we see a light. And what you said is the Qur'an. Now,
a being will come to us that is kind of illuminated.
Okay.
Right.
So this is in the Qur'an. It says this, but then all the movies and all the stories you hear is
that's in a hadith, not in the Qur'an, but it's in a strong narration. Yeah.
That when people die, they go and they see this beam of this light that, you know, comes to them, or they go to, or stuff like that. So if this is in a hadith, have you ever heard if it's in any other sort of religious text, whether it's the Torah or the Bible or something, or all the movies taking this from Islam and using the opportunity when someone dies they see a light at the end of the tunnel type deal?
I mean, there is nothing explicit in any so-called Islamic source, say like, obviously not in the Qur'an, and not in the hadith literature explicitly. There are aspects like in Surah An-Nazi'at where Allah talks about taking the soul, right? And there are ahadith that will talk about when the soul is taken from the body and the angels will take it up through like the different levels. Perhaps, and this is a speculation, nobody run away with this, perhaps this is something that people are talking about, but given that these are so-called near-death experiences, right, they didn't make the whole complete journey, and that the soul didn't quite completely leave the body and then came back. So that is just pure speculation. I don't put a lot of stock into it. I think that just perhaps maybe some physiological response of the body being in trauma, but Allahu A'lam. But it certainly coincides with it certainly seems to point in the idea that when this heart stops beating or when the brain activity is gone, that ain't the end of everything. But again, that is pure speculation. So it seems to, perhaps, if you want to twist it, bend it, curve it, it could certainly corroborate some of what we have in our own tradition. But that's about as much as I can say on it.
Thank you.
Mark, just about that, because I don't know if that's related to that, because the ayah is فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد.
I mean, again, it's possible. It's not يعني هذا باطنة يعني مش ظاهرة. It's kind of like you could interpret it in this way, maybe, but it's not. يعني it's not like مباشرة. It's not like that's definitely it, right? So, Allahu Alam, right? And in fact, for me, all of these speculating things are really not necessary, in that if we have solid ahadith, right? And this is where the hadith science is important. If you have a hadith, for instance, the Prophet ﷺ said that it's his sunnah to eat dates for breaking his fast, right? And the science of isnad, of confirming this through the chain of narration, then narration isn't a problem, period. Matter of fact, the Qur'an is also reliant upon the same chains of narration as the hadith. It's just a stronger chain of narration. We call this tawatur, right, in the mustalahat and the hadith terminology. So for me, or not just for me, but hadith methodology or isnad or narration, that's how everything works. Whether we're talking about the Qur'an or the hadith, it's just when we get to the hadith, then you're dealing generally with less stronger chains of narration that we call sahih, hasan, and so on and so on and so on, right? So again, we know through many different narrations that there is life after death, there is experience after death, that there are things you experience in the grave, and then obviously there's what you experience, on the day of judgment in front of Allah as you come back to life, and then what you will have, either in the garden or the fire. So given that we have a ton of information, both from the Qur'an and from the Hadith, about post-life experience, I don't really get caught up about moonbeams and rainbows and unicorns and whatever people see about, I don't see that as essential. I already have, I believe that the Prophet ﷺ was honest when he gave these things, and for those reports that can be validated, I believe in them with the same level of veracity as when he's talking about eating dates, right? It's all about isanid. It's all about chains of narration. So we have about a minute. This thing's probably going to cut us off. So if you have any other questions about this, just hit me up. I'm happy to we can explore more aspects of it. May Allah Ta'ala bless you again and accept from you in this short time remaining, and inshallah make you from the people of Rada, of his contentment, and of Jannah, inshallah. وصلي وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين والحمد لله رب العالمين والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله.
Eid Mubarak.
Eid Kareem.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, Joe.
Take it easy, Joe. Good to see you, man. Assalamu alaikum, Ernst.